else. Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for coming here. Mr. Downey, I wanted to start with you. I was struck by something in your testimony. You said, quote, our model works best when there is funding for projects to put our members to work. You go on to say, if we want to attract and train more skilled trade apprentices and strengthen recruitment, history shows the best strategies to fund the projects that create the very jobs they're training to do. This is why we don't overtrain. And what I take away from that, and I think this is an important nuance, is the importance of that calibration, right? That sense of making sure that the pipeline is there so that you can ensure that there's a job ready for them afterwards. Is that right?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, that's correct. The system is designed today to be able to have enough people in the workforce when they're needed. And then when they're not needed, we're not bringing new apprentices in and they're not working.
And your work there needs to be in terms of calibrated. You're assessing what are the needs that are out there and trying to understand and trying to meet where the number of jobs need to land to be able to meet those needs, right?
That's correct. And we don't just do it with our signatory employers. We do it with all stakeholders. We get the input directly from the owner-client community as well.
I think what I really take away here is not just in terms of, yes, we need to do more to be able to increase that demand, efforts like what we did with the bipartisan infrastructure law, but you also talk about uncertainty. Both you and Mr. Booker have talked about this. And, for instance, I just think about it in terms of my own home state. Right now we have the largest construction project in our region is there, but there's a lot of uncertainty about the Gateway Tunnel project right now because we're just not certain what exactly is happening when the president says he wants to terminate it, when we hear from the Department of Transportation that, things are hopefully going to continue on. We got workers there from both of your unions still working on that on a day-to-day basis. I'm trying to do everything I humanly can to make sure that that's keeping forward. But I'll be honest with you, the uncertainty is deeply frustrating. And I guess I just wanted to ask you, I'll start with you, Mr. Downey, just when you're seeing that kind of uncertainty, when you see this type of just politicization sometimes of our infrastructure, how does that affect your calibration? How does it affect your ability to try to understand what the needs are?
Well, I think it really, when we're having the discussion that we want to attract the younger generation into our field or our line of work, when they see that instability, I think it makes them look somewhere else. So it creates not necessarily a roadblock, but some apprehension in when they want to consider what career path to head down.
So it's affecting the recruitment, you think, in terms of when people are looking, is this going to be a steady job for me? Is this something that I can count on? That gets a little shaky, is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Booker, you also talked about that, saying that you currently have 35,000 apprentices embarking, but the future is looking more uncertain. You used the word chaos several times. How does that affect your mind when you're seeing things like this uncertainty around the Gateway Tunnel project, which, again, many of your members are working on?
It creates an environment where people don't want to go and join the trades. And when they're not sure, like we do a lot of community organizing, we do a lot of member outreach, go talk to them, go visit them in their neighborhoods and see where they're at. When they're in their community, they talk about a steady job, and many of our people have been working for a long time. But when you turn on the news and the job that you're on, there's everybody's talking that it's going to be terminated, it's going to be canceled, it's going to be held in limbo during these negotiations. The human capital that's being played here should never happen. We should fund a project, we should permit a project, and we should let our members go to work. And when you don't do that, it creates a negative strain against registered apprenticeship and trying to bring in that next generation of workers to build our infrastructure.
I had the chance to be able to sit down with some laborers in New Jersey that are working on these projects up north, like the Gateway, and they talked about it in terms of they built a life up there. They built a whole family up there. And with something like the Gateway, we're talking about 13 years worth of work here. That is generational in terms of the amount of support. So, it's not just about the recruitment, right? It's also about the people that are there that are trying to know whether or not they're going to have steady work going forward for the families and the kids that they got in school.
And I was on that project about a month ago and met our members. There was father-sons working on that project that they handed that down to the next generation to do that. And imagine that stress on your family if you brought your son into this industry, worked on a project you thought you'd be working on for the next 10 years, and now you have to turn on the national news to see it be talking about whether it's terminated or not.
Yeah, well, look, I'll just close here and just say, you know, the workers deserve certainty about this. I'm going to continue to fight tooth and nail to get that certainty about Gateway as well as all these other projects around the country. And with that, I'll yield back.
Senator Murkowski.